Mark, thank you for coming on today. We're really excited to dig into all of this with you. You've had quite the past I'm reading about here. Do you want to give us a little summary of kind of how you got into all of this?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on as well. I'm happy to be here. So yeah, I started real estate in 2018. It was kind of a second go at life. I didn't really have much going on in my early 20s. And I had some alcohol and addiction problems that were that were really in the way of finding any success or really having any real passion or path in life. Um, a couple of arrests and a couple stops, short stops, but stops at jail and rehab, and just kind of my life in a dumpster fire. I finally found sobriety, and that was in 2018, April 2018. It's been a little over 6 years now. And, I learned about service and giving back and being selfless and higher callings and, some principles that I still operate today with, like the laws of abundance and attraction. And, when I got into real estate, I really didn't have much of a choice. It was kind of like, okay, you're gonna do this, and failure is not an option. So I just went all in and worked my ass off and hustled every morning and all weekend and on, weeknights, showing houses, doing open houses, all the stuff. Um, I ended up finding success. I became, I guess I was somewhat, I've always been a good people person. So it was like, it was not too hard to get some clients, but it was more about learning the business and what to do and how to set myself up for success. Um, I had a couple of good years in real estate, and then I was on a big team at the time as a team agent, and I was promoted to a sales manager there, and did that for about 2 years. And last so 2022 November, about a year and a half ago, is when I branched off on my own, left the team. I was planning to just be an individual agent, and kind of just run a business for a while. And 3 months later in January, someone reached out to me and asked if I had started a team and if I was hiring agents. And I kind of thought about it for a second, uh, I told her, like, hey, this will be the wild, wild west. Like, I have nothing planned for this. I have no roadmap right now. But if you want to get on your horse and ride with me, like, we'll go, let's go. And she was down, and that was January 2023, and we're at 25 agents today, in August 2024. We just opened up a branch office from EXP in Troy, Michigan, and we're on pace to triple our sales from last year to this year. So it's been a wild journey, but I honestly couldn't imagine my life if I hadn't got into real estate, and probably more importantly, if I hadn't have got sober. That was the key moment, like the turning point for me in my life. Um, and when I'm not working, I like to play golf, go to Red Wings games, Lions games. Huge Lions fan. Uh, Play pickleball, go to the movies, get dinner with my friends, and go to the gym and try to stay healthy.
That's
So
awesome.
excited to be here to talk to you guys.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the success of your team. That's pretty impressive all within 1 year.
Yeah, it is. And, I don't know what the secret sauce is other than we do a really good job of trying to keep our agents happy. We believe they're our partners, not our employees. And so we ask for feedback, and before we make, big decisions for the company, and we want everyone's input. We think that's important. But I don't have some like crazy recruiting machine or anything. A lot of it's word of mouth, honestly. A lot of it is, hey, I'm not happy over here, and I knew someone that went over there, and they're doing all right. And so we get a lot of referral and word of mouth agents that come to us.
That's great. Awesome. Well, all
So
right. So go ahead. You can get started
cool.
then.
Yeah, I have this whole slide deck about like leverage and boundaries and systems. but I know we wanted to talk probably a little bit about the NAR stuff too. So I don't have any slides for that, but I figured let's start maybe with just a conversation around NAR, and maybe we can help get some clarity around what the best practices are, what you guys have heard, what we're planning to do in our office, and really just hone in on that. And then once we feel like we moved on from that, I'm happy to go into the slides and talk about some of the stuff that I planned on talking about as well. So like who here feels 100% comfortable and knows exactly what to do when you walk up, when you get a new buyer lead and you got to go show them a house and get that BBA signed before you go in the door. Raise your hand if you're like 100%. I know exactly what I'm doing every time. I got a play in mind. Okay. So a couple of us and a couple of us with no cameras, so I can't tell. Okay. I'm curious. For those of you, Julie, you said you have a plan. What are you planning on doing?
Yeah, I mean, I know what to do. It's just I think the implementation of it, right? Because it's not just getting that buyer broker agreement signed. We know we have to do that, right? But
Yeah.
how do we get to that point, which is the bigger piece, which is I'm continuing to update and revamp my buyer consultation, adding to my high note to make sure that it's all covered and someone feels completely comfortable. I mean, if it's where there's no time for that consultation, that's a different story. But I'm getting my ABR, which I never did because NAR's offering that free now, so everyone should get their ABR. I'm doing that
Nice.
online. Anything I can add to, like, why is this piece of paper something you're going to sign with me and not
Yeah.
somebody else? And why am I worth that 3%? So that's continuing to evolve because, we're a little lazy, when you didn't have to. You didn't always
Yeah.
do the consultation. At least I didn't. I'm speaking for myself. Sorry. So I'm continuing to beef that up,
Yeah.
providing my
Makes
value.
sense. So you said not all the time, but it sounds like sometimes you did a consultation and tried to get a buyer broker agreement in the past.
Yeah. I mean, did I always get that signed before we started the whole process of looking at homes? No, I don't think any of us can
Right.
say we did that.
No, for sure. Yeah.
I'm probably speaking out of turn. I shouldn't be saying that because maybe
Yeah.
some people, it was always their practice, but it wasn't my standard practice. So am I
No,
good
I
at
think,
that? No, I'm not. I'm not good at that, but I'm working on it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, um, in a perfect world, what we're telling our agents to do is not, and again, this is not a perfect world, so this will not be, you can't do this every single time, but I would try for it every single time, is get to their home, do a consult at their home. One, even if they don't have a listing to sell, but probably half do. Now you're in their home, you're somewhere where they feel comfortable, right? And we want them to have their guard down when we're delivering this presentation. We can really get to know them there. And not only can we learn about the home that we're likely going to sell if we do a good job for them, but we're also going to learn about where they're living now and what they're in so that we can go be a better buyer's agent when we're out in the field looking at houses for them. Right. We have had eyes on their kitchen and their bathroom and their basement and their backyard. And now we can like really accurately compare and contrast what they have now and what we're looking at versus coming in completely blind. So, now again, that's not going to be, there's going to be scenarios where they live an hour away or they're moving from a different state. And, obviously in those scenarios, you can't do that. But when applicable, I think there's a really big power in getting into their home and doing that consult. And up to you if you want to try to like double that into a listing consult as well, or if you just want to focus on the buyer consult. But I think there's a lot of power in getting them, where they're living, where they're comfortable, and then having that reference point back to what they're looking at so that as you're going through the process, where they're living, so that you can go through the process and really compare it to what they're looking at. And so for us, that's kind of like first phone call with a new buyer is, hey, where are you living now? Like that's one of the first questions I want to ask them, not how much are you approved for? How much do you have saved? What's your credit score? All that stuff puts their guard up. Right. So I just want to know, hey, where are you living now? Right. What city? They'll usually tell you it's a house we're renting. We own this house over here. We're thinking about, upsizing, downsizing, whatever. Um, and then I want to find out, okay, and how long have we lived there, right? Without them having to say we have X amount of money saved. If they tell me they've been there for 10 years, I know they have some pretty good equity. So I know that they have some money saved and they have some money in that home, right? Um, so by asking the right questions and asking the right questions the right way, we can get some of those answers from them without even going into the tough questions, which puts their guard up. Um, from there, I want to find out what they like about it and what they're trying to accomplish in their move, right? What are we trying to accomplish here? Do we want to downsize? Are we upsizing? Do we need more bedrooms? Do we need a bigger backyard? Whatever it is, right? And I think that really aligns you as like an advocate for them. Hey, what are we trying to accomplish here? What are you trying to accomplish here? Really shows that you're here to listening to them and giving them some advice based on what their goal is. And then I want to get inside their house. So, it might be, hey, would it be a ridiculous idea if we sat down and met at your place before we went out and looked at some options? That way I can get to know you guys a little bit better. I can get to know the house you're living in now. So I have some contrast between what we're going out and looking at. And we can go over, your perfect plan and really decide, what it is that we're looking for and where you want to go and get to know each other a little bit better. And I'm kind of keeping it casual like that. This isn't a formal like, hey, this is an interview. You are hiring me. I'm not using any of those words. I want to get to know you guys. I want to learn about what you're trying to accomplish. And hey, I'll actually be in that. You told me you lived in Ferndale. I'll actually be in that area later today. So it'd be easy for me to stop by and we can get to know each other a little bit. Hey, do you guys like Starbucks? I'll grab a couple coffees on my way over. Like text me your order, you know? Um, any any thoughts or questions around all of that? Of course, we can't do that every time, but anyone like have anything that was like, oh, okay, or any what ifs or what abouts?
No, I love it. Like, I just love your verbiage too. Just
Nice.
you're their friend. You just want to get to know them. Like, we're not talking about
Yeah.
pre-approvals and all those things. And I don't know. I guess with buyers, I honestly didn't really consider meeting them at their house. I don't know why.
It's kind of a newer idea.
I
Someone
know it's
shared
a
with
great
me.
idea.
Yeah, but it really does. Again, it's not going to work every time, but when you can get in there, I mean, do you think anyone else is doing that? Let's be honest, guys. Are there any other agents who are offering to come to their house, bring them coffee, make it easy for them and get to know them? So immediately you're going to stand out, right? Even if they are interviewing other agents, you've already proven your value just by doing something different than the rest of the agents. Because what are the rest of the agents going to do? First of all, they're probably not on this call or any other calls learning about the best practices. They're just winging it, or they're going to say, I'm not doing anything differently. And how are they going to prove it? They can come hunt me down, So just by being on this call, you guys are already in a better spot to convert these buyers because you're actually taking the time to develop and improve and hone your craft. Right. So, what are most of the agents going to do? They're either going to do nothing different and they're going to, find themselves in trouble when they don't get paid or, have some sort of, arbitration or lawsuit or whatever it looks like. I've heard whispers that there's some task forces out there that the DOJ has set up to try to catch agents who are not wanting to play by these rules. So please don't do that. Don't risk your license. And if they are going to do it, they're going to do nothing differently other than show up at the house and say, hey, Julie, great to meet you. Before we go inside, we got to sign this paper. And the buyer's going to be completely caught off guard. So there is a little, obviously there's going to be those times, and we can talk about the driveway kind of consult right now. But I think there's a lot of power in getting in front of them in their home and doing that consult in person. And in terms of presenting the BBA, I mean, obviously, I think NAR put out a list, and I'm sure you guys have seen it on Facebook. There's like this long list of 150 things that buyer's agents do, right? It's very comprehensive, all the little stuff that people don't think about. if no one has a copy of that, I can shoot it out in the Facebook group after the meeting. You don't need 150, maybe just 50. Pick the 50 things that you do for sure every time. But if you want a super long list, you could do that too. But kind of going along with that, and then we developed something in our team. I'm not saying you have to do this, but to provide a little extra value to the clients as well. We wrote another PDF called the Client Advantage Program, and we're coaching our agents to get this signed in tandem with the BBA. And what it basically says is, it lays out like 6 things that we're going to do for you. We're going to be your consultation like for a lifetime. We're going to help you with your future refinances and, advising you on your strategies to build and use your equity, renovations, contractors, market analysis. Maybe you want to get into investing beyond your primary. Like we're here. We're a lifetime resource for you. Off-market strategies, buyer need letters, all of these other types of ways that they can find properties that aren't just listed on the MLS. We have a full-time transaction coordinator. So, we're sharing that they're going to have not just the agent, they're also going to get me and my director of sales who have a ton of experience and a transaction coordinator, all for the price of one agent, right? Seems like a pretty good value, you're getting 4 people for the price of one. And maybe that's not your business, but you got to figure out what your unique selling proposition is with this, right? So it's basically 6 things that we do that we feel are different or a lot of agents can do, but don't talk about or don't do. And then we have 2 guarantees that we offer them. The first guarantee is a love it or list it. So if you buy a home with us and you don't like the home after you move in, as long as you let us know within 12 months, we'll sell the home for no listing fee. Obviously, we'll have to talk to that client about the buyer's agent fee, but we won't take any money as long as you use us again for your next purchase. So we have a love it or list it guarantee. It makes people feel like, hey, they have our back. And if this home doesn't work out, what's the harm? They'll sell it for you for free and we'll help you find the next home. And then we have a cancelable at any time guarantee, where as long as you email us as long as you email us 7 days later, this thing is canceled. And we did the 7 days just so that they couldn't email us, cancel it immediately, and go write an offer on a house that we just showed them yesterday. So we figured 7 days is enough where most likely if they wanted to try to go that route, the home probably already sold, or they realize they don't want to wait 7 days and they're just going to stick with us. Not that everyone's out there trying to, there are some sharky people, but for the most part, like our clients are really just lost and they just want help. At least that's how I, see them. Or that's what I come across. We don't, once in a while you'll get that person who I only want to work with the listing agent, or, I'm not paying you any commissions or blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, people are pretty nice and they want help and they need help. And, we've done a bad job in our industry of sharing what we actually do for them. And so people just think we make easy money when there's a lot of things that go into it behind the scenes. So we put together that PDF, and again, I can share that with the group as well after the meeting. And that kind of takes their guard down right away. Hey, this says right here, this is cancelable. And this says that we'll list it if you don't like your home, in the first year. So right there, we're getting their guard down and showing them that we have something different than other real estate agents are offering. But then as far as the BBA, well, let me just pause there. Any questions or thoughts on that? Okay. As far as the actual BBA, we're keeping it real simple, right? It's, if we are in the driveway, even if we're in the home, we've had more conversation, obviously, if we're in the home, and then we pull out the form, right? And we talk about it. But either way, whether we're in the driveway or the home, that kind of talk is really the same to me. And it's really just, hey, awesome, Julie. So I don't know if you've been following in the news or you've been paying attention to what's going on, but the government made some changes. And so they wanted to step in and make sure that it was very clear who's representing who and how we get paid. Do you know who I represent in this transaction if you decide to buy a house?
That's right. I'm sure you represent me.
That's right. You. I represent you and only you, not them. Is that what you'd like me to do, Julie?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. So I want to represent you. I want to get you the best deal. I want to take everything I can from them and get it into your pocket. Is that fair? Does that sound like something you'd like me to do?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Awesome. So this form here, all it says is that exactly that. I'm going to represent you, and my fee can be paid one of two ways. One, you can stroke me a check at closing. Now, I never want that to be how you pay me, right? How I'm paid, excuse me. My goal is to get you the best deal on the house and ask every seller of every property to cover my fee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what if they don't, what if they're not willing to do it and I really like that house?
Yeah, absolutely, Julie. We're going to have that conversation when we get there. I'm a great negotiator. If they're absolutely not willing to pay that fee, we still have a couple other options where we can roll it into the price of the home and make sure that you're not coming out of pocket for that fee.
Okay, I don't really understand that, but I trust you.
Yeah, well, look, we can take a little time to make sure you understand it. I want to make sure that you feel very crystal clear about this whole process. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I just don't really understand this whole lawsuit thing and all the stuff I'm hearing in the media.
Yeah,
Really
there's a lot of
confusing.
different stuff going on, so I get it, and I'm here to try to make it very simple. The way things were in the past, really nothing's changed. The only difference is they wanted to make sure that every buyer knew who was representing who in the transaction and where the money or who was paying the fees. So in essence, the sellers always felt like they were paying, and the buyers always felt like they were paying. The seller's saying, "Well, you're taking it out of a line item here on my statement, so obviously I'm paying the commission." And the buyer's saying, "Well, I brought all the money, so without my money, no one's getting a commission." So what this form and what this new law says is that, hey, the buyer's agent is paid by either the buyer or the seller. Right? There's no more cooperating commission. So the listing agent isn't giving me a share of his. I'm either paid by you or I'm paid by that seller. And every single offer that we write, I'm going to write it in there that that seller is paying me. And in the case that they're not, we're going to have a conversation around a couple different options that we could do to make sure that you still get the house and you don't have to come out of pocket for that fee. And one of those may be concessions, and one of those may be adjusting the price so that the fee is baked into the price, in which case the seller can credit it or pay the compensation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man, but we're looking at $1.5 million or $1.5 million. We've been looking for a year. Like, so you're saying we might have to, I might have to pay you 45 grand? I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, Julie. And in reality, nothing has changed. When did you buy your last house?
Oh, it's been about 8 years now.
Okay. Yep. And did you use a buyer agent?
I did. I did. I guess I'm not sure who paid them, but I hope it wasn't
Sure.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look back at your old document from 8 years ago, you will see very clearly on there that you owe your buyer's agent 3% and will be credited against any amount offered by the seller. So this is really the same thing here. It's just stated in a more clear way up front. Again, most sellers and most agents are still advising or talking to their clients about the benefits of offering a buyer's agent commission, because just like you, buyers don't want to come up with an extra 10, 20, $40,000 to go on top of the house. And Julie, if it was me, you know what I would do? I'd say, great, you're not going to pay my agent. Well, I'm going to offer you exactly 3% less for your home. So either way, the seller's paying for it. So again, in reality, nothing has really changed. And my job is to get you the best deal on this home and make sure that my fee is not paid by you out of pocket. Does that clarify things?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Awesome. And again, reminder, this is cancelable at any time. We're just dating here. So if you don't like the way that my breath smells one day, or you think I didn't call you back quick enough, just let me know, send me that email, and we can go our separate ways. I want to work with people who want to work with me. And I know that, honestly, I've never had this thing been canceled. So I'm confident that I can do a great job for you. So great. Let's sign here. We can go inside and we'll see the home.
Sounds good.
You're going
Yeah,
to
I
get
mean,
pushed
she's
back,
got
of
that
course,
scenario
but
going on. I've got an agent who, they're looking upwards of 1.5 million, and buyers doing the math. And so um she actually wrote something in other conditions, but that's a whole nother story. And I don't know if it's something you want to even get into, right? that?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to talk about it
I
if
mean, I
you
don't know if that's a good idea for us to be doing that, but on the EXP buyer broker representation agreement, there is additional comments in section, what am I
yeah.
looking at? 7 additional terms, and she wrote in there that again, it's just funny that this lawsuit I think it was more based on sellers thinking they had to pay commission, but now, we're really not even giving the buyer an option here on that 3%. It's kind of like, what are we doing? We're locking them into 3% with this buyer broker agreement, just like we were locking sellers in on the listing contracts.
Yeah.
So every day when I think about this differently, it seems backwards, but
The whole thing,
Mhm.
I'll have our thoughts. A lot of it doesn't make sense. They
Yeah,
try to come in and make some changes that I have a feeling, and I think most, not that I'm a leader, but most real estate leaders do, around the nation, that this is going to change 2 or 3 more times, before
yeah,
it's
I do
a
too.
final settle of how we do things.
Yeah.
But there are a couple other things that I didn't mention in that, in that share. And I think it's important to say, and to remind them that I can always make less. I can always receive less, but I can never. So if you're getting pushback and it's like, well, hey, 3%, I mean, can't you just do 2 and just like figure it out as we go? Well, hey, Julie, look, here's the deal. On this form, whatever it says, 2, 3, 4%, whatever it says, I cannot get paid more than that. If the seller's offering to pay 3%, are you okay with me making 3%? You're not paying anything. Most people are going to be like, well, yeah, I don't care what you make. I'm not paying it. Great. So look, all this says is in that case, I can make 3. But Julie, you're my client. I want to make sure I want to have you as a client for life. If it comes down to you getting the perfect home and us figuring out a strategy to make this work for everyone, yeah, I can take less here. Right now, it's not going to, I wouldn't say this, but for us, it's not going to be the first thing that I do. I'm going to go back a million different ways before I cut my fee. But it's important that they know that they have that option, but we can't go up. And I think most people are fine with us making a fee. They just want to make sure that they're not paying that fee, you know?
Yeah. I mean, some might want it in writing though. So she did add, just to make them happy that it was in
Mm,
writing, that if it weren't 3%, that the deal's not dead, right? Like you're gonna negotiate it.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, I mean, I think that's something that seems like an okay option.
Mhm.
For sure, if it's that price point too,
Yeah, I know. I know.
I
Different.
mean,
A little different.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey
Um,
guys, can I chime in with something real quick? I had a
Please,
thought when
yeah.
you were kind of going through that. So,
Yeah.
obviously, with these settlement changes, I think listing agents are going to have to be really good with their net sheets, like, with each offer being different and it's not a preset, amount of compensation. I don't know if anybody's doing this or if it's something that might be good to add to the repertoire, and what the terminology would be, but almost like a buyer net sheet, like when you're buying a home, obviously not a net sheet, but like a cost sheet. If that would be something that they would ask for or that you offer, that's like, hey, this is what your down payment's going to be, XYZ, and commission out of pocket, minus concessions, this, that, or whatever. But that might be another, arrow in the quiver, if you will, that could help you stand apart.
I think that's a really interesting idea. I hadn't thought about, a buyer net sheet. Um, it's a little harder to estimate without a lender involved. Just every lender is going to have their own origination and lender fees that are going to vary from lender to lender. But you could almost break it down as a cash and then, estimate what a closing cost on the loan might be. I'd
Yeah, kind of
certainly
like
like,
your opposite side title sheet when they give you their CD. They're like, when you're on the buy side, they're like, this is what our sheet looks like. We don't know what your lending is. So, obviously you see typically like the full purchase price amount on there plus all the fees. So it could be something like that. Or even when you're doing your net sheet with your sellers, like obviously there's some variables there on like taxes, title fees, and other stuff in there as well. So there's got to be
yeah,
some variability, but just kind of when you were talking through that scenario with Julie, and you were like, hey, so it might be concessions, it might be you paying it might be the seller paying me directly. And obviously, even with that kind of variable commission, right? Like, hey, we're going to start at 3, and if I can get it covered, then obviously, why not? And that's adjustable. But that's just another thought that honestly should be in theory, even easier maybe than a seller net sheet. And obviously, probably less frequent, right? When you're listing, you might have multiple offers, whereas this is going to be on like an offer by offer basis, which, might be 2-3 times a week at most, unless
Yeah.
you've got that really aggressive buyer out there.
No, I think it's a great idea for sure. I'd be interested to see how that goes, but I think putting it on paper and showing them a few options of, hey, if they're offering this and you have to make up this is what it looks like. And I think that makes it, again, crystal clear for someone to understand, what the different options would be. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
It might help explain too, like the difference between the seller paying me versus giving you concessions to pay me. Like, hey, your breakdown sheet at the end of the day is going to look a little different, and like technically, yes, you're paying me, but we're getting it covered by them, or we're getting a portion of it covered by them.
Yeah.
So, most people are visual learners, right? So
yeah, that's awesome, man. It's a great suggestion. Was that helpful, guys? What else is on your mind about like doing the buyer presentation, getting the BBA signed? There's a lot more still. Anyone have anything on their mind or anything that's really they're like super anxious or nervous about?
How are we supposed to handle open houses?
As the sellers or listing agent, we don't need to have anything for any form signed. We're there representing our seller.
Okay.
It's our duty to show the house.
Perfect.
and if you're covering somebody else's,
I guess that would get a little technical depending on if they're in your brokerage or not. You would be that because you could be acting as a sub agent, depending on how your brokerage views that of the listing agent, and still same. I would check with I don't know where you're at, Dan, but I would maybe check with your broker on if you were covering someone else's open house outside of your brokerage.
right?
But
And
as
I
long
mean,
as
just
they're
from
inner brokerage,
ahead.
it's fine, right?
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
understanding. Inner brokerage is fine. Yep. You're still there as a representative, of that brokerage, the listing brokerage.
And I guess I would just be more diligent. I'm in EXP as well, but I would just be more diligent about, in a non-pushy way, trying to make clear like I don't represent or have any fiduciary to that list, like to that seller. As they're entering, like if you can find a casual way to bring that up without, kind of putting any of that pressure on.
Right. And so at that point, now you've gone down the representation route where you're going to have them sign something. I mean, not before they come in the door, I don't think, but as soon as you start talking about agency and representing someone, now you got to present that form pretty quickly thereafter.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. What about like, are some of us listing agents? Like, do we know what we're going to tell our sellers when we go sit down with them and they ask us questions about the lawsuit? Who doesn't know what they're going to say to their sellers?
I mean, part of something I've talked about, because I think this does give advantage, like this whole NAR thing does give some advantage to the seller, and obviously probably takes some advantage away from the buyers, right? I'm assuming that's a lot of people's consensus. Obviously, also taking buyer agent a little bit of that power away too. But so I had a listing on Zenlist, like pre-signed, and then we made the change before it went live, where we wanted to get that amendment signed. EXP wanted that amendment signed.
Yeah.
So when I was having that conversation, was just kind of presenting it as like, hey, this is a good thing, because now it's on a offer by offer basis. You're not predetermined. This is what I'm spending. Obviously, yes, I would still anticipate getting a request for those fees, but it's not predetermined, right? So we may be able to negotiate that down. They may ask for less. But I mean, just kind of emphasizing it's an offer by offer basis, giving you more information and more things to decide on, which in theory gives you more power as a seller. Like, do I agree to this? And I think their only question was like, okay, so originally we signed for 6. What happens with that? And I was like, okay, that's going to go down to here unless I bring in, I find an unrepresented buyer. So your best case scenario is just the 3. The buyer pays their own agent, but I would still anticipate. So I mean, they were already kind of preset on the 6 because that's what they signed originally.
Yeah.
So it was easy when we did get the offer that asked for them to have their agent compensated. but just emphasize, it's going to be business as usual. It's just another line item when we get these offers that we have to be aware of, and we're going to make sure we look at as each offer comes in.
Yeah, I think what you said was great. I mean, that's kind of what we're rolling with, is setting the expectation that, um, just like price, terms, occupancy, anything else, the buyer's agent commission is negotiable now. So, every offer may come in with a different commission attached to it, and we need to look at everything as a net. What is going to be left in your pocket, net of all, net of all commissions, concessions, whatever that may be. Because Mr. Seller, would you agree? It's more important that we put more money in your pocket, even if that means pay a 3% fee to this person, but their price is high, right? Like their terms are better. So, I think looking at everything as a net, and I think, like you mentioned earlier, Dan, coming with seller net sheets, probably probably two or three rather, to the listing appointment is going to be really, really key, moving forward from here. It's not something that we have done traditionally. I know a lot of agents do or already have a process of bringing a net sheet to every listing appointment, which I think is great. And I think now it's more important than ever. So we're coaching our agents to bring, 1, 2, 3. Here's what we sell. If we sell for, this price, here's what it looks like if we sell for this price. And, here's what it looks like if we sell for this price. And I'm also kind of on the bottom there, maybe having just a little edit saying, by the way, if the buyer's agent pays him his own buyer, or the buyer pays his own agent, here's what that number looks like. It saves you this, and if we have to pay it, here's what that number looks like. So I'm bringing a couple different variations there, but, again, I think great news is a line that should be your friend. Like, hey, great news. Like, this didn't really change a whole lot, right? It's just a little bit different. There's still commissions. We should still expect that, buyer's agent will ask for his fee from us, the sellers. And the main difference is now we have a right to negotiate that. We're not offering X to every single person out there. We're offering it based on the merit of their offer and their terms. And that should empower you guys and make you feel really good about, about the new way of real estate. And then just making sure everyone who is with EXP saw that, like, they rolled out a form kind of after the initial forms that does stipulate, let's say you have a seller who just says, no, man, I'm old school. Like, I know there's value to offering 3%. I want everyone to see this property. We now have a form that says you can, that stipulates that that's being offered by the seller, and the buyer agent or buyer broker will sign it when they make their offer. So everyone was aware of that too? Okay, cool. Yeah. What else, guys? I mean, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of like one-off scenarios, right? Where like, now I'm blanking on them all. I had all
It's
these
all good. I got
one-off
one that
scenarios.
might lead you.
Okay, yeah, what you got?
I haven't run into it, but like many of us, I'm sure we're part of way too many Facebook group chats with realtors. People talking about
Those things are. I had to mute some of them. They're insane right now.
I've thought about it hard because looking for an agent here, and you have more comments than as many minutes as it's been posted. But
Yeah.
so I haven't run into this personally, but listing agents requiring your BBA before approving your showing.
Yeah, I haven't ran into that personally. I think I did see something about that on Facebook.
Requesting, whatever. I don't know if they can
Right.
technically require it, but
As far as I understand, they cannot technically require it. Also,
at the same time, you can't forcefully make them approve your showing.
right. And at the same time, where do we want to start if my buyer likes this house, from a place of butting heads or a place of shaking hands, So
Right.
we had a situation similar to that where, we sent in our confirmation of compensation, the new form that EXP gave us to confirm what the seller is paying commission on a buyer purchase. And The other broker came back, different brokerage, and said, hey, like, we can't sign that. My broker told me I can't sign it. And we're like, well, my broker told me I have to get it signed. So like, you're going to run into those scenarios. And we ended up just making a quick call to the broker team and asking if we could do this instead. And they were like, yep, that's fine. So, it's going to be a little bit wild for a while here until everyone kind of gets on the same page. You got different forms from every brokerage, different advice coming from every brokerage. Especially the big ones. The little ones, God help them. I don't know what they're doing or where they're getting their information from. So we're expecting that we're going to have some of those difficult conversations. And I think it's really just about, hey, look, Dan, like, we're both on the same team here, man. Like, I know we're representing our clients on the other side of the transaction, but we both want what's best for our clients. And my client wants this house and your client wants to sell this house. So like, your broker wants to get this signed and my broker wants me to do it this way. And, like, can we find a happy medium here? Like, let me call my team. Can you call your team? And let's see if we can get something that works for everybody. I think is the best answer that any of us really have at the moment, is just trying to work together, remembering that they're co-op agents, right, guys? We're supposed to cooperate with them, even though sometimes we're doing both agents' jobs.
I mean, any like, does it hurt your position drastically to send that buyer broker agreement over before even showing, or give them any, specific advantage that might
Yeah, I mean,
impede even on your
I
fiduciary?
mean, I don't think I have a problem with it. I mean, unless I'm leaving something out of my thought process. I mean, so you send your BBA and they see you have it and they see that you negotiated 3%. Well, great. All that means is that's the most you can make, right? Or even if they saw that you had discounted to 2, you're not putting yourself at a disadvantage because you still can't make more than 2. That's what the BBA says. So it's not like you could go ask for 3 anyways. Was there something on your mind? I don't see anything that could put you at a disadvantage.
No, I guess nothing specific, just more looking for input because I hadn't come across that yet.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, just kind of same as you. Like, I want to make sure there's not something I'm missing, like it, not drastically inconvenient.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all it says is the term, how long you're with them, and what the fee is, and, buyer's name. So I don't see any harm in sending it over. I think the bigger hurdle for anyone is going to be when they're asking you to send that over and you just got a Zillow phone call or some new online lead or any, whatever, and you haven't even had that
Mhm.
conversation or don't have the form signed yet, just to get a showing approved. I can't imagine that's going to happen often or last very long because, again, at the end of the day, as a listing agent, our job, we're fiduciaries to sell that house for our clients. And if we're putting hurdles out there, for buyers to see the homes, I think if an agent's doing that, I think brokers are going to have a problem. Like, their managing broker is going to have a problem with it really quickly.
Not to
Yeah.
mention, I mean, that forms between you and your buyer as a buyer's
It
agent.
is. Yeah.
Nothing to do with the seller. It's really a confidential document, I would say, between
Right. I
the
mean, we never see
buyers.
the listing
Yeah, but
agent's
Right.
contract on the buy
I mean,
side,
yeah, right. You're not asking for their
Yeah.
listing contract, right? Makes no
Yeah.
sense.
Exactly.
No
But I
sense.
think you're right about like the Zillow type leads where that might be a smaller hurdle. And unfortunately, the cynic in me just thinking worst case, like I know, and I don't know if other brokerages have it, but I like the fact that we do have like a one listing or a one showing agreement. And
Yeah.
obviously, hopefully, that's just your first step to then set your actual consultation and get the real one signed. But
Yeah.
if that's something that you send over and the their contacts information on there, maybe they're a sketchy agent and reach out and like, hey, I can help you
Yeah.
with this other property or whatever. I mean, again, just the cynic in me thinking of seeing the sketchiness in potential people. I
No, for
like to think
sure.
most of us are ethical, but if we were, I don't, we might not be in this whole NAR settlement anyway.
Yeah, this is a great conversation. Honestly, I'm really glad that we're having this. I think Julie brought up a really good point that it is a private document. There's really no need to share it. And I'm trying to remember EXP. Do we have our client's information on there? Is it phone number, email on there? Or is it just their signature line. I think it's just their signature line and name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of maybe the old Gmar one
But
before all these changes.
certainly if I was going to send something over, I would black out my client's
Redact.
contact information for sure. Yeah. And I wouldn't just lay over and do it. But I think, like I said, if you're in one of those scenarios where you're just trying to do everything and, maybe you don't have the time or whatever it is to argue with them, again, just starting from a good place of, hey, okay, look, I understand you're trying to do what you think is right. I'm trying to do what I think is right. Like, here's what I can give you. Here's what we can. Can we figure this out? But yeah, that's an interesting thought for sure. We're not really going, so I don't know if any of you guys are Zillow agents. We're not using the Zillow touring agreement. We decided to leave that out for now, opt out of that. It is optional. We just felt like it kind of set the wrong precedent of like, hey, this is 7 days free that you get to, and we don't have to talk about anything. I think I could see it both ways. There are some people out there who are like, well, it's kind of teeing them up that this is a temporary 7-day agreement, not mentioning anything about a buyer agent fee. Maybe it warms them up into having that conversation or signing it, within 7 days. But I'm kind of looking at it as, if I'm the consumer, I'm like, oh, great, I get to use you for free for 7 days. Why would I sign anything else?
Mhm.
So we're opting out of that, and we're okay with the single property, but we're almost more pushing just the full BBA and just writing it for, a 7-day or something, or putting it as property specific, or properties specific by writing those addresses on the additional comments. I don't, to me, the single property, can be good. I think it's just a preference of how we're looking at it, as we'd rather have the full kind of coverage for, some sort of period of time, even if it is 24, 48 hours, than just have to fumble around with a second piece of paper when in essence, you can just edit the BBA to work as a single property form. I think the main reason they came out with that was because the consumer will see it on the top of the page, single property form, and maybe they'll feel more inclined to sign it because it clearly states this is single property. So, not saying there's a right or a wrong way there, just some things to think about which way you want to go with it. Man, we've been chatting. I think we're supposed to be Q&A, but we kind of had an open Q&A, and I did not get the slides at all. But I think this is honestly more important, especially with where we're at. I'd be happy to like come back another time or just send you guys all my slides. I mean, it was just about leverage and scaling and mindset and some cool stuff there. But I think this is what's on everyone's mind. It's 4 days away. Everyone's kind of, trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. And I think this was a really good conversation, a really good dialogue that brought up a lot of good questions, and hopefully some of the stuff that I shared, resonated with you or gave you some ideas as how you can bring this into your business moving forward.
Absolutely. If you could share the slides, do you have like a link or something? Or if you sent them to me, then I can make sure everybody gets them.
Cool. Yeah. I'll send them to you for sure. And I'll
I
send
will-
that, what did I tell you? I'd send the CAP and our client advantage program and the list of 55 things or whatever that a buyer's agent does.
I will put my email in case you don't have it in the chat.
Perfect.
There we go. Perfect. And then I can make sure everybody gets it. And if they have any questions, we can always schedule another time for you to come back on and go over all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have just a couple minutes left. There was another kind of there was another impression that I wanted to kind of leave with you guys, in going all the way back to talking about my fee as a buyer's agent to a broker or to a buyer. I'm kind of like, I'm really pushing that everything is their choice, right? You're going to choose the homes that we're going to see. You're going to choose whether you want to go see it or not, whether you want to put an offer on it. Of course I'm here to guide you, but the choice is always yours, right? You're choosing which agent you want to work with. You're choosing the homes you want to see, when you want to see them, if you want to offer, what the terms and price of the offer is. And so just like all of that, the compensation that we're talking about here today is also going to be your choice. You're going to choose how you want to structure that. And I'm going to advise you of your options, you know? I think by just, again, really pushing that everything is their choice, can be helpful, and reminding them of the value that you do provide. So like, if you had to sum up the whole thing in two words, it's like, I want to make sure that they leave that consult or that phone call or that appointment, whatever, with two things in mind. Man, they provide a lot of value and everything is my choice.
Mhm. Yep. I like that. Anybody have any additional questions?
Could be anything too, not even NAR related, whatever's on your mind.
I personally haven't had, thankfully, any issues with buyers signing the agreement. During the consultation, what I've been doing is just going over everything with them and explaining to them, the purpose of it and basically everything you went over. And then instead of asking them to sign it right then and there, because I feel like that's too much pressure for them, I then go into my buyer consult and let them know that, once they find homes that they are interested in seeing, I'll send them the MLS sheets and disclosures along with the contract. And once that's signed, we can go ahead and see the houses. And it hasn't failed yet, knock on wood, that as soon as they find something they're interested in seeing, then they're ready to sign.
Got it. So are you doing that like virtually or in your office or something? Or
I
am I misunderstanding that are you still getting it signed before you go into the home that you show them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
Got it.
So I usually do it in person, or I try to do it in person because I want them to actually meet me before we just start looking at a bunch of houses. Otherwise, I have done them virtually.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And just like, I had suggested going to their home. Guys, if you can't get that, like try for a coffee shop near the house or come to the office or a coffee shop near where you live or somewhere in between. Like there's a lot of options. Virtual is obviously a great option as well too. So, I wouldn't like just go for the house. I would remain adaptive, like maybe you go for the house, they can't do that. Maybe you find out they live in Arizona. Great, let's do virtual, right? If they live an hour away and they want to look somewhere closer to where you are, great, let's meet at a halfway point or somewhere around the homes they want to see. And still not giving up after. If you go and you do that whole consult, and maybe let's say they only feel comfortable signing some version of a single property or a 1-day agreement where, okay, fine, I understand I have to sign this to see the homes today. I'm out here with you. I'm not going to, just turn around, but that's all I'm willing to sign. Make sure, in the showing, you're showing your value. And I'm asking again, hey guys, can we go stop back at the coffee shop and sit down again? I'm not just walking away that day without trying, after they've signed something that's short term, I'm still going to, show my value and try to win them over that whole appointment, whether it's 30 minutes at one house or 2 hours at 4 houses. And then once again, ask for the business, right? At the end of the day, we're asking to be hired. And I don't want them to go, 2, 3, 4 days and they're out there researching, thinking about everything. And maybe they come across another agent, they click on Zillow or realtor.com or whatever. So I'm always trying to, lock in that relationship, even if they go for a short term, upfront.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of going to their house. In the past, I've gone coffee shop or at the office, and I like the coffee shop one too. Typically, I'll just find one, either in between where I'm at and they're at, or whatever the scenario is. But that becomes like the place, to the point where, we're meeting there for a buyer consult. We're meeting there to go over any information, hey, you ready to write your first offer? Great. Let's do that in person. I want to make sure that you understand exactly what you're signing and what you're offering so you can feel confident in that, at least the first 1 or 2 times before it's like, okay, you've seen these documents, you know what to look for. and then anytime we need to meet. So I had a client that ended up in new construction. So it was like, great, here's all we got to pick out our extras and options and all that stuff. You want to meet at the regular place, we meet there, and it just becomes consistent. But what I liked about what you were saying about meeting in the home that I thought of earlier too, just as far as like another business opportunity, is maybe they're renters and they're in an apartment and you find out, hey, what are you paying for rent? And you're like, okay, for that. In your head, maybe you're like, all right, for that price, there might be people in here that could actually afford to buy a house too. And that might be somewhere else that you market to and farm, just as a thought.
Yeah.
So
Love
I
that.
mean, you're renting, you're in an apartment complex paying $1,800 a month. Okay, I mean, I can get you into a $200,000 house or 250 maybe.
That
So
goes right
like, all right, maybe
to,
I should market this apartment complex now after I'm done with this, and you're gathering information and maybe creating more business in another way.
I think that's great. I love the way you're thinking. That goes right into one of my slides, which was the opportunity mindset, just always looking for new opportunities. So that's great, Dan. I think that's awesome. Yeah, same thing with the houses. Maybe it's a neighborhood. I mean, hey, right now you know where they live. You've been there. You're already there. Come back and door knock. I mean, same thing,
Yeah, if they're sellers, great. You know what those houses are going for, door knock, or maybe they're renters, and you're like, okay, so that's what rent is going for in this neighborhood, whether you're looking for your own investment or you represent investors or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. Guys, I think one of the I don't know how long we go over or whatever. I'm here till everyone's done, but I think it's worth pointing out. I think it's really funny. Do any of us have any problem asking our sellers to pay us a commission? But we have a big problem asking our buyers to pay us a commission.
Right.
Simply because it's just not the way it was done, right? But at the end of the day, it's the same thing, guys. It's the same thing.
I do wonder on the listing side of things too, like whether it's sellers being taken advantage of, that aren't aware of the NAR stuff. So their contract says 6, even though there's no co-broke, and they're just paying their listing agent 6. Or maybe the hard part for other agents that were signing 6 and keeping 4, giving 2 or whatever, keeping a majority instead of the 50-50 split. And now they're like, oh, I'm going to make less money, or they've got to justify actually getting it signed at 3.5%, 4% or whatever.
Yeah,
But I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the reasons why, we're not really, we're not really intending on, we're wanting to coach our sellers that they should expect 3, but we don't want to sign them up for 3 up front, because we're locking you in. And maybe there is maybe your house is super competitive and someone has a cousin as an agent and just wants them to get their house, and we'll do it for 1%. Well, again, I love you, fellow agents, but in that scenario, I'm a fiduciary to my client. Well, why would I make them pay 3 when someone was willing to do it for 1?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of sucks, but it's, and I'm sure that's not going to happen very often, but that's kind of how we have to think about it when we're with our sellers, for sure. And yeah, those discount listing agents for sure are going to have a little tougher time with this as well.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. I hope you guys all have a great week.
And Mark needs to come back.
Yes, yes.
I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Julie,
Perfect.
great seeing your face.
You too. You too.
Perfect.
Thanks for
Thanks,
this. It's
guys.
great.
Yep. Thank you guys
Thanks,
for having me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll send that stuff over to you.
Perfect.
good.
Thank you.
Okay. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.